We have a few seats set up there. I'm going to welcome everybody for our last of our speaker series. Mindy Steigerwald is going to speak with us this evening. First, I just wanted to is this the first time for anybody in here that's okay? Well, welcome to our museum. We have 3 floors of museum exhibits, and we have a lot of volunteers here. So after the program, if you're interested in just browsing around, we'll be happy to show you around. This was an old hotel, the Travelers Hotel, and all 14 rooms upstairs. We have themes, different themes of historical artifacts. We have a horse-drawn mail wagon in the basement. We have our aluminum collection. We just have, so much interesting things. We're very proud of our museum here. And I just wanted to also mention that we're happy to put on these seminars to get people into our building that have never visited before. And we do not charge for any of our speaker series seminars, but being a nonprofit, I have to let you know that we do have a donation box out by the door. That's how, through donations and memberships, are how we keep our doors open. So we appreciate any support that you can give us. We also have newsletters out there. Our most current one is April. We do it 3 times a year. We'll have another one coming up in July. But please if you aren't a member and don't receive the news, that's part of your membership. You receive newsletters, free newsletters. So if you aren't a member, be sure and take one of our newsletters and you can read about us. And without further ado, Mindy Steigerwald.
Thank you. This is the point where I have to choose between looking at you, seeing you, or seeing the paper. I think you want me to see the paper. I think I know an awful lot of you. Before I was Mindy Steigerwald, I was Mindy Christie. I was born and raised in Grove City. My grandparents and then my parents owned Dad's Restaurant. That's what I'm famous for. Before I was Steve's wife, and then Stephen and Shannon's mom. And now Gracie and Molly's Mimi. Thank you for having me. There was some confusion that perhaps Steve and I were both going to be here. Whoever's bad idea it was to have Steve and I speak, talk to him, and he volunteered me. He doesn't like to speak in public. And of course, I adore the sound of my own voice. Thank you. I consider Steve Steigerwald to be one of the luckiest humans on the face of the earth. Because he always has known exactly what he wanted to do with his life. And he has a lot of passion about what he does. When he was in high school, he graduated from Franklin High School, class of 1974. They did have a VOTEC back then. But you had to choose between being a VOTECer or being an academic student, and he was an academic student, but he was drawn to woodworking. So in his senior year of high school, his guidance counselor set it up so that he had 3 periods of shop in a day. And he built his mother's dining room suit in that time. And sort of became famous because around his friends and their parents because of how much he enjoyed it. So several of his friends' moms started him in stripping, refinishing, and making repairs. So after he graduated from high school, his mom threw him out of her basement, that's where he'd been doing his refinishing, and gave him a piece of property that had a house on it on their farm. And that was the beginning of his business in 1974. But he quickly realized that he wanted to he needed to know more than he knew, and he needed to have more of a professional background. So he went to work and apprenticed with Frank Kosmowski at Mercer Woodworking. While he was there, he was a specialist in finishing and installation. And I think he probably would have stayed with Frank, and because he always did dream of owning his business, but Frank had a son come into the picture, and Steve got laid aside. So he struck out on his own in 1978. January 15th, 1978 is his first official day of business. And he was known then, as some of you know, as Steve's Woodshed. And he had his little building out in Bargeyville on the farm, which over time he added on to a couple times. But he actually had 3 components to his business. He still did this furniture stripping and refinishing. Believe it or not, how many ever, almost 50 years later, we still get phone calls, do we still strip furniture, and we haven't done it since the 90s. He also started his cabinet making business, and Kathy's brother Tom was actually one of his first employees. He created a partnership with the VOTEC, so most of his employees came from the VOTEC. The VOTEC offered a program back then where in your senior year you went to school a half a day and then you came to work for half a day. So, and most of our employees that have been with us all this time came from the VOTEC. He also had a construction side where he was he wasn't really building houses, but he wanted to do remodeling work. And his brother Rick actually ran that part of the business for him. And one of the things that attracted me to him, besides the obvious, is that I was working for Demi Kuchalushis down at Harshaw selling insurance, and I had a fair amount of control over what happened when people had a claim. So he sort of courted me on that initially, and I have to tell you, I didn't like him very much. He was kind of a nag. He continued that partnership with the VOTEC for many, many years. Up until a couple years ago, he actually sat on their advisory board, but he just stepped away because they're really more in the building trades than they are in the cabinet making business. He didn't think it was a good use of his time. So in 1983 is when I came into the picture. And of course I had my job at Harshaw's, and I didn't have anything to do with his business. I was doing my thing and he was doing his thing, and then a couple things happened simultaneously. Demi sold Harshaw's, and my father was diagnosed with cancer in the span of weeks. And I was fairly devastated, didn't like what the new direction the new owners were taking, so I just quit. And spent the next year helping my mom with my dad in their restaurant business. After that, very quickly, I got pregnant and with our first child, Stephen, and he was born, and then I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom because I just couldn't take it. So I said to Steve, I'm either going to go back to law school or I'm going to come in here and help you. What do you want me to do? And he'll tell you that he was afraid I was going to get smarter than him, so he said no to law school and come help him. So of course you remember that I was working for Harshaw, so I had training in the insurance business, and nobody trains in sales as good as an insurance company. So I walked into his business and I said, well, why do you only sell what you make? Why don't you sell something else? Why don't you sell toilets? And why don't you sell something cheaper? And why don't you sell something more expensive? And so from there, he wasn't really ready to take that plunge, but he allowed me to, and we bought a building on Broad Street across from where we are now, Ron Campus's building, and what was born of Steigerwald's Design Center. So we went in there and I sold his cabinets, and I made a partnership with Marilat Cabinet and Kohler plumbing fixtures. Eventually, we joined up with the Cook Nook. Remember all that when we had all the gadgets and the street fairs and the cooking classes, and it was a lot of fun, but it was exhausting because meantime I've got little kids, and right when we opened the new store, Sarah, our second child, was born, so it was pretty difficult in the beginning. So we're going along pretty quick, and the next thing, big thing that happened in the business is it became possible to buy a cabinet making program that kind of integrated CAD and cabinet making and doing cut lists and all that thing. So Steve wanted to buy this called Cabinet Vision, and at the time in 1988 it cost $15,000, which was just, you know, huge amount of money. But we took the plunge. Steve had to learn how to use it. Got very good. We enjoyed being across the street. We had good visibility. We had to keep long hours because we tried to keep in touch with the the other stores downtown that were more retail than we were. So along comes Walmart, which kind of put a kibosh on some of those boutique-y kind of sales. And then not long afterwards, the outlet mall, which sort of put the final nail in the coffin on retail on Broad Street. But we kept going for a while, and then Black Monday. Remember Black Monday? October 1987. And it was huge in our business because the stock market pretty much crashed, as it can in this day and age. So Steve then decided that he could not stay completely dependent on the residential housing market. So that's when he began to branch off into commercial businesses. And I think some of you would be probably surprised at how much business we do that are not kitchens and baths, but I'll get into that in a minute. So we're going along, we're growing the business. It was astounding to me. You know, I started out doing his books and helping out a little bit, and we were doing in a month what he used to do in a quarter. And it was just astounding and exciting. But we soon realized the sad fact that you can run a business a mile long, but you can't run two businesses a mile apart. So, because all he got done was running back and forth, because we were building cabinets still out in Parkeyville, where we were making them, and we were delivering them out of there, but we were doing all of our sales and all of our stuff in town, so he just got exhausted running back and forth. So we started to toy with the idea that we needed to marry the two businesses back together and get under one roof. So we began to look around at properties that might be available or somewhere to build. And then, as many of you know, that became the Riverside grocery store became available. And that became another huge investment for us. But we, as we have in many times in our lives, found that we really do get by sometimes on the kindness of other people. And the people that owned that building made it very easy for us to do. So we had these grandiose plans that we were going to be a tourist destination. So we built our shop and we put windows in it because we were going to drive tour buses. Mary Ann's laughing, I can tell, even though I can't really see her. We were going to drive tour buses downtown to watch people make cabinets, a la Wendell August Forge, not really a original idea. So we got all that done. We brought the shop in 1995, and we brought the showroom in about a year, took the showroom over in a year and a half later. We did a lot of remodeling in the building. If you know it, you know that it's not just us. We have two tenants, we have a common corridor. So we did a lot of work in it. We did it with our own people, so it didn't happen very quickly. So while all that was going on, our accountants and lawyers and all those happy people, they're saying, you know, now you need to be one company, you need to be a corporation. So Steve's Woodshed and Steigerwald's Design Center became Steigerwald's Kitchens and Baths, strictly for the lawyers and the accountants, pretty much. So we have this world-class, in our opinion, showroom we're so happy with, and we have these windows, and we run everybody back to watch them build cabinets, and then we decide we don't like that very much. Because here we are working on a drawing, or working with a customer on a $25,000 kitchen, and somebody comes in from Milwaukee and says, oh, I want to watch somebody build cabinets. So it really became a very, very bad idea. And it probably was my idea. But we're still getting lots of foot traffic, and we're growing the business. We added more automation, so we have another computer program that the one that he had bought years ago just does custom cabinets. Now we got a program that we can do stock line cabinets where they have their catalogs in them. And we hire another person, a designer, to run that and take care of it. So here comes the big box stores. So that's all these years of changing the things that happen around you that change the course of your direction. So we dumped Marilat. I don't mean that as kind of uncouth as it sounded, but we went into partnership with Craft-Made Cabinet for the most specific reason that Lowe's carried Craft-Made Cabinets, because of the name recognition. And that has worked very well for us, because I like to tell people, you know, I can't sell Craft-Made Cabinets for any more than Lowe's can. I mean, we're the same. It would be ridiculous to assume otherwise. But I love it when somebody walks in with a Lowe's layout, because I said, you give me 5 minutes and I'll find 3 mistakes on it. So we have stuck with them. They had great trips. We've been all over Europe back in the day when companies gave away great trips. We continued to grow the custom end of the business, but it quickly became something that tended to be much more high-end. So because the person that just wanted a regular average kitchen that didn't need a lot of customization, box cabinets work very well. So the price was right, and Craft-Made has continued over the years to expand what they do. Right now, we can actually alter their cabinets to a 1/16 of an inch. So they're almost fully custom. So then we decided that we were going to build European style cabinets. So cabinets are built with a face frame. Apologize if you don't know or care that, but European style cabinets have no face frame. So they're built more by automation. So the material is cut in squares and put together like Legos, which then brought the next big step in our lives, where we decided that we were going to buy a CNC router. And I went dragging along to the machinery show in Atlanta, Georgia, which sounds like a lot more fun than it actually was. Well, Steve decided he was going to buy which CNC router he was going to buy, and I decided how we were going to pay for it. It was $125,000 for this one piece of equipment, which was like another mortgage for us. It was just so scary. But the other thing that was going on was we had a hard time getting staff members. You hear nowadays about the need for people to work. We've always had that problem. There are always been a time when people are not being pushed toward the trades, they're being pushed to college, or they're just left behind. There are a lot of children graduating from high school today without basic math skills. So it's always kind of been a problem for us. So what the CNC did for us is made us able to do the same amount of work with about 1.5 persons less. So that allows us to keep our production up. It also meant that we could go after a different type of business. I'll give you an example. Everybody knows Hal Coffee, right? So Hal Coffee has candy and nuts and coffee. So when Hal Coffee supplies their candy in a grocery store, they are required to provide the fixture that it sits on. So if you go out to the local Walmart and you walk like you're going down the center aisle where Hal's, there's a little display, it's about this tall, and it has all their pre-bagged candy sitting on it. We made those. So Hal's continued to grow their business. They had a huge contract with Giant Eagle. So we built certain racks for Giant Eagle, which were called Giant Eagle racks. And then they got the Walmart business. And they still are expanding their Walmart business. We have 5 of their units sitting down at the shop right now to go out. And the really cool thing about it is, we like you to run into them with your buggy. Because not only do they replace them, but they repair them. So they drag them in and we fix them up. So that's been a huge business for us. Some of the other commercial jobs that we went after is the spa industry. There's a company down in I can't remember the name of the town. but they make what would go into a salon or a spa, wax units and stuff that we make their housings, and then they add their electrical components. We also have their sister company make stuff for the physical therapy industry, and those go mostly to the military. It's for burn victims. We built a thing that they put their hands and arms in, and some kind of corn silk runs around. And but again, we build the housings, and then they add the electrical components. We have a company out of State College that we make acoustical panels for. So if you've gone into an auditorium, there are a lot of schools and churches where you see those curvy things on the ceiling. We make those. And there's wood diffusers on the walls that actually look kind of like egg cartons with the things in different helps with the sound apparently. So we're going along good, and then the next thing that happens is 9/11. And in the history of all of our business, in the course of 24 hours, we had 4 jobs canceled. Canceled. Just call us up and say, I'm not going to do the job. And it was daunting. As we all remember, because I think everybody in here looks old enough to remember, it was so devastating in and of itself, but it also felt like we were going to lose our business. But again, based on the kindness of other people, there was a local person who stepped forward and gave us a job, and that started us back up again. So it's sort of the theme of our lives, is the kindness of others. So we're going along great now, and kids are getting older, and Stephen eventually comes to work for us. Kind of going a little fast forward a little bit. So he has been going with his dad every day of his life that he can to the shop. He likes hammers, he likes tools, he likes nails, he likes wood, he likes everything. So he eventually comes to work for us, and he takes charge of the installation. So that allows his dad to spend more time just selling and overseeing manufacturing, and Stephen oversees all the installation now. He did that, I can't remember the exact year that he came to work. I think it was 2012 or 2013. He turned 30 in 2016, and we made him the vice president of the company. So things have been going along very well, and then Steve and I look at each other and we said, okay, now we're old, what are we going to do? And there's that whole, when did this happen? We've been working night and day to build this dream that is finally in front of us, and now we don't want it anymore. Well, we want it, but we want to look at it from a distance. So we have to figure out how we're going to stop. And of course, the obvious thing is, well, Stephen will take over the business. Well, I have to tell you, I really tried to talk him out of it. I spent a lot of time trying to talk him out of it. Number one, employees hold a gun to your head. The employees that we have are getting old too. We have guys that have worked for us for 20 years. And the supply chain issues are the real deal. Everything is hard. And I don't know that it's going to get better. I don't know that it's ever going to get completely better, because I think companies are going to continue to charge for fuel and charge for things and charge extra for things. I don't know that it's not going to get any better, at least for a while. So he's determined though, and if I'm being honest about it, Stephen has all of his dad's talent and most of his ambition, but not all of it. So I worry about him, but he's determined, and he has a plan, and he presented it to us. And so where we're headed right now is Stephen wants to take over the business, but he can't afford to pay us. And so are we prepared to give him the business? Well, we could probably give them the business if we had any other source of income besides Social Security. And our paltry retirement that we never really put into because we're so busy buying CNC routers. So we said, well, we're gonna have to sell this. We're gonna have to sell the building downtown because Steve and I own that personally, and that is where our assets lie. And he was happy. Stephen was happy about that because that old shop in Barkeyville that he used to go to with his dad is less than a mile from his house. And he just thinks that it's the greatest thing. He gets excited about his girls getting off the school bus there, and which just tickles me because he used to get off the school bus in South Broad Street and he hated it. So he's now recreated his whole childhood with his girls. So we are in the process of adding on to that building that we tore down the original structure because it just was not worth saving. And we're put up a big 2-story. The first floor will be the showroom and the second floor will be the offices. We'll put a giant addition on the other end, which is just about finished. And July 11th or thereabouts, there's a rigger coming and going to haul the equipment out of there. And we're going to have a big auction because it turns out with all of our other problems, we're hoarders. And we're going to downsize and we're going to move, and Steven's going to take over. He has big dreams of his own. He doesn't understand why we don't do ready to assemble cabinets, and he's big on farm to table, tree to table. He likes to build things in the rough. So that's what he's going to do. Steve's never going to retire, and I'm okay with that because he's pretty boring when he's at home and not doing anything. I'm going to slow down. Our daughter now lives in California. We're hoping to spend some time out there with her, and that's it. That's all about us, more than you ever wanted to know. I brought you each a gift. Has a little notepad in it. Has a tape measure, because as Steve Steigerwald will tell you, you measure twice and you cut once. I thank you.
You had mentioned about, when we talked originally about how the pandemic affected your business. Did you have a lot of, did it really slow down when the COVID hit?
It did not. In fact, well, we were forced to shut down by the government. Everybody was put in a category, and we were not considered essential, so we had to close down, which was very difficult because we had people calling us, Howes, County Market, asking us to produce plexiglass shields. We had jobs going on. Steve immediately started. I always forget words at my age. He started appealing, writing letters and emails and appealing. So we were really only shut down 2 weeks of the whole time. But I thought, again, I'm kind of a drama queen, as you might have guessed by now. But I'm sitting at home thinking, here I am, going to lose everything at this age because the world's going to hell in a handbasket. But people sat at home and said, what can I remodel now? So our current work schedule is into March 2023.
So it really helped you in a way.
It really did help, and I feel kind of bad saying that. I mean, I don't feel good about it, but we do what we do well. We've prided ourselves on never taking advantage of anybody, and as I said, we've always gotten by. Something good has always happened to help us out when we needed to. So we just keep on keeping on.
Other questions?
I have a question. Did you ever think of trying to get into furniture making of the shag woods, since they're gone, of course?
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like they had a really good business over there.
That's something that Stephen likes, and Stephen himself has built a lot of furniture for family and friends. The problem for me with it is because I'm the chief bean counter, and you know, you need to make a profit on what you do, or you're not there very long. And our staff, our custom cabinet makers and our staff are so committed, and if you give them one thing outside the ordinary, they turn it into art, and you can't make money. So until somebody can show me how you could do that, I mean, I think it's a great idea, and trust me, I'm happy to have any of them in my home. Every stick of furniture in my house, my husband or our company made, and it's beautiful, but it's not affordable because it's just art.
Mindy, you also mentioned about 9/11 having an effect on it. I was thinking, is that because of supply chain or what?
No, it's because people panicked.
Okay,
People
so they were
panicked.
afraid that,
They were
afraid to spend money.
They were afraid that the stock market was gonna crash, I think,
Okay.
and they were just afraid to.
Everybody just backed off on remodeling.
We have never involved ourselves quite as much in new home construction, simply because we don't work well with most contractors, and it's hard to get paid, sometimes. Most of our work is in remodeling, so it's not sort of necessary, so, you know, people, I mean, I remember the calls like it was yesterday. I'm gonna put that job on hold. Most of them I think we did in the meantime, but it was just such an awful time.
Has the economy just recently, have you seen any slowing down on, you know?
That's a good question, but it's a hard question for me to answer, because our slowest time is summer.
Okay.
Because people tend to, all y'all tend to think about outside projects. So you're not thinking about your library or your bathroom, or, you know, you're thinking about your yard and your porch. So we always slow down a little bit in the summertime. But as soon as August rolls around and the school starts back up, our phone just goes. But, you know, I have people in the showroom. The nice thing for me about COVID is that we've trained people that they have to call first and make an appointment. So we don't have a lot of people just traipsing in, you know. I mean, we do occasionally, and the couple times that we have, I've had to say, I can't do your job until next year, and they don't want to wait that long. So in that sense, it has. But, you know, throughout all that talking I was doing, I'm sure you can assume that, you know, sometimes bigger isn't better, you know. We grew it and grew it and grew it and grew it, but, you know, when you have 3 crews going and a lot of extra employees, if you're not making money, it's not any good. So we just do what we do. And when I have a customer right now who's so unhappy because we're not there yet. And, you know, I'll say, well, do you want me to send the A team or do you want me to send the B team? But we don't even have a B team anymore. But, you know, you can't, it's not worth it to not keep your standards up high.
Sure, yeah.
What's the furthest away job you've ever done?
West Palm Beach, Florida.
That's pretty far.
Yeah, actually, it's an interesting story because there's a guy in, I think it's Emlenton. He was the doctor that bought the old mansion that did the artificial hip, I bet. Dr. Steffi, yes. We did not do any work for Dr. Steffi, but we did work for his daughter and son-in-law. They had a barn, and it was elaborate. So they quickly left Emlenton and went to West Palm Beach. So we uninstalled their kitchen cabinets and they put them on horse trailers. She was a horse girl. She was a thoroughbred racing person. And then they hauled them to Florida, and then they flew our installers down to install them in West Palm. We have a couple jobs in Hilton Head, because we know a lot of people there. We have a pretty nice sized job in Michigan. And the coolest story I can tell you, and these people, they keep moving farther away, but they used to live, they bought George and Becky Elliott's house on Center Church Road. And this guy is one of the largest collectors of vinyl albums in the United States. So we built for them a bunch of cabinets that organize them and store them. So, I mean, it was just ridiculously, crazy amount of records that he has. So they lived here, but she worked out of Chicago and he worked out of Pittsburgh. So they weren't here a lot. So then somebody got transferred, so they moved to Tennessee. So when we went to Tennessee and recreated those cabinets for them there, I didn't get to go, of course. I never get to go.
Did you disassemble them or move?
No,
or
we
you
built,
did
we
them-
did it over again.
Okay.
So Steve flew down and measured and spent, they had a beautiful home in the mountains of Tennessee apparently, so I'm told. And then we built them, and then our installers actually drove them down.
Wow.
So then, they retired, and they moved to Butler.
Guess what?
So we did the whole thing over again in Butler. In the shop right now are the same things out of Walnut now. They bought a place in Champion, in Seven Springs. And that's the next job we're going to.
Oh my.
4 sets.
So they've left 4 sets in the house, 3 sets in the houses for people who don't have record collections.
Apparently.
Keep their cookies, she said.
I will tell you though, you talk about the hard times, but the pride that comes out of your work. I could only afford the craft-made version, okay? And she did a tremendous job in an unusual kitchen. To this day, and it happened just about 6 months ago, if I call craft-made to have some little, well, I've had to have a new drawer or something, they look up the order number and they go, oh, Steigerwald's did you, no problem, we'll ship it tomorrow. That says something to the work you've done over the years.
Yeah, we've tried to explain to Craft-Made over the years. They're not sure they buy it. But people don't buy a Craft-Made kitchen from us. They buy a Steigerwald kitchen. We had a kitchen just to go out in early March to Slippery Rock, and it was, wait for it, white, because everything is. And the hood cabinet came in with the finish damaged. And, Craft-Made is going to have all these supply chain issues, so we were told it was going to be all this time to get a new hood cabinet, which just ruined our lives. So we just stripped it and refinished it ourselves and repainted it, and so and to your point, there was a time, not so much now, but we could make a Craft-Made kitchen work in somebody's odd house, because if we had to custom build something to add on to it, we could do that. So it was sort of made us unique and gave us a little advantage over a lot of our competitors. Yes, sir.
Who did your design work? Did Steve do that? Who designed the kitchens when a customer came in?
Well, initially it was only him. And, of course I have a story about that, because the first thing that I noticed was that all of his kitchens looked alike. They were all oak, square raised panel, fawn or special walnut or honey spice. Everything was the same, which, and please don't take offense, all of you men in the room, but I have noticed that men do that. They tend to do the same thing over and over because it's easy. And so eventually, because when I started, I was only allowed to do the books, and then I could help people fix something out. But, I've gone to classes and gone to training, and, some could say I'm pretty good now. I try to pride myself on making everybody's a little bit different. So, and we have a gal that works for us that's good at it too. Stephen is a good designer. Stephen is probably the best we have with making ceramic tiles stand up and sing, because he's kind of already about it.
So there is an art aspect to making cabinets, and also the design that you end up with.
I think so. I mean, there are basic rules you have to follow. You have to center the sink underneath a window, and the dishwasher goes here, and you don't put the stove next to the oven. But if I'm working with you, and there's several people in here that I've done kitchens for, I like to know a little bit about you. I like to know what you like to do, and You know, if you're freakishly short, for example, and you like to bake, I'm going to suggest that we drop down a place for you so you're working at a comfortable level. You know, on the other hand, if you're freakishly tall, the opposite. We don't tend to go real far outside the lines, because eventually you're going to want to sell your house, and if you're really freakishly short, some freakishly tall person might be the one that wants to buy it. It's fun.
Good, yeah.
It's fun. It's fun when people are good decision makers. When people want to spend 17 hours deciding which handle they're going to put on the door, not so much. My favorite customer is the customer that says, give me 3 choices. And I just write a story for them. Said, this is choice 1, this is choice 2, and this is choice 3. And I have had the privilege, everybody know where Tom McRae lived? On, whatever it's called?
West Washington.
Yes, thank you.
East Washington.
The woman that bought his house is from California, and she probably has a fair amount of money, and she's not used to a small town. Let's just put it that way. So she said to me, somebody introduced us, and she said to me, I want you to design me my kitchen. And she said the only thing that matters to me, and she's very colorful language, but it was a pot rack. That was the only thing that mattered to her, was a pot rack, because she has $10,000 worth of these pans. So, and meanwhile, she got possession of the house, but she didn't get her stuff didn't come. And we laid it out. We were moving walls and doing all that stuff, but I wouldn't finish the design for her, because I said, I haven't seen your stuff yet. Like, I gotta feel what you like and what you're, and I mean, thank God I did, because she's got some weird taste. She's got this Tibetan thing that's beautiful, but it's weird. And so as soon as I saw her furniture out and her knickknacks and whatnot, tchotchkes, I immediately knew what she would like. And so God bless this woman, she's a retired cardiologist. She gave me a big ton of money, and the kitchen in her house is what I would want. So that part of it's really fun. I'm not a mechanic though. So this big pot rack that I designed, I have to go to my husband or my son, and I said, okay, you need to make this work mechanically. So sometimes that can be challenging.
Anything else? Any more questions? Well, Mindy will be around a little bit. We have cookies.
And don't forget to take your treat bag.
Mindy has gifts for all of you. Thank you very much. So, help yourself to cookies and punch. And